Alright guys, in this video we're going to look at some of the things that we've discovered in genetics since Mendel. We're going to cover all these different things, so we better get into it. So firstly, homologous chromosomes. Chromosomes are the strands of DNA that are found in the nucleus that form the blueprint of life. And each of these chromosomes has a partner that it pairs up with that is very similar to it, and these are referred to as homologous chromosomes. A gene is a section of DNA found on the homologous chromosomes that determines a certain trait. And throughout this video I'm going to talk about a gene for eye color. As you know, I've talked about it before, and eye color is controlled by a number of genes, so it's not as simple as that, but it's an easy thing to get our heads around brown eyes and blue eyes. Just try not to think about green eyes and hazel eyes and all the other types of eyes that there are. An allele is what we now call Mendel's factors. So he was talking about things that having a factor that affects something. We call those alleles. And an allele is a particular version of the gene that codes for a particular characteristic. And these are created through small mutations that occur in the DNA that have been allowed to stay in the gene pool. So for example, here we have an allele for brown eyes and an allele for blue eyes. So we have two different alleles making up the gene for eye color. Because we have two different alleles, one on each of the homologous chromosomes, we can either have them both being the same or being different. When they're the same, we call them homozygous. So here are two different chromosomes. One has homozygous blue alleles and the other has homozygous brown alleles. Both of these have the same alleles on both chromosomes. If the alleles are different, we refer to them as heterozygous. So here we have heterozygous, which is one brown and one blue allele on each of the homologous chromosomes. And you'll remember that Mendel talked about dominance and noticed that some factors, and we call them alleles, are dominant over others. When we're writing about these alleles, we depict them as a letter, and we depict the dominant letter as the capital, and we actually take both letters from the dominant allele. So brown would be a capital B, while blue would be a small b. This example is a little bit confusing because both have the same first letter, the B, but if we're looking at the P color, the purple flower would be, or the purple allele would be big P, while the white allele would be small p. So that letter is taken from the dominant allele. Genotype are the alleles that are present on a genetic level. So genotype, genetic. So we would write the genotype of this chromosome, or these homologous chromosomes, as big B, little b, to show that there is a big B, brown, and a little b, blue allele present. Phenotype is the way that that gene is expressed at a physical level, and this takes into account the dominance. So for example, the brown eyes is dominant over blue eyes. Therefore, somebody who is heterozygous, one brown allele and one blue allele, is going to have brown eyes. So this is the phenotype, physical. In this video, we've looked at homologous chromosomes being the partners that each chromosome have that are similar to them in that they code for the same genes, but different in that they may contain different alleles. Genes being a particular part of that chromosome, and alleles being the specific version of the chromosome that codes for a particular type of that trait. For example, blue eyes and brown eyes. Homozygous when the allele on each of the homologous chromosomes are the same, either blue-blue or brown-brown. Heterozygous are when they are different, so one chromosome will have the blue and one chromosome will have the brown. Dominance is that one of those alleles is dominant over the other one, and in this case the brown is dominant over the blue. Genotype is the alleles that are actually present at a genetic level. So for a heterozygous set of chromosomes with a brown allele and a blue allele. The brown is dominant over the blue, so therefore we have a big B for the brown and a little b for the blue. And phenotype being the physical characteristics or physical traits that are expressed in the individual. So brown being dominant over the blue means that someone who is heterozygous will have brown eyes.